Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from many and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out more about them and we take your questions. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and our guest on this episode is a man of many talents, but we just call him the indie artist of the world. Please welcome Kevin Kurz to the stage. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for Kevin as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producer is going to be keeping an eye on it as we go throughout the course of this insanely good episode. But in the meantime, my question for you is, Kevin, what would you say were some of your favorite movies or TV series growing up?
Growing up, definitely Star Wars was kind of one at the top of the list. We had we actually had Empire Strikes Back was the tape that would just get plugged in there every during summer breaks and stuff. It'd just be running every day. But we also did watch the Muppets a lot. Watched a lot of like the Disney Saturday morning, cartoons or weekday afternoon cartoons like Tailspin and DuckTales and all of those fun ones. And so I always remember anytime you'd start on a Monday and as soon as you'd see the opening episode, that's going to be the 5-week special. You got really excited because you knew that the entire week was going to be just an ongoing kind of long movie of the, DuckTales or Darkwing Duck or something like that.
Wonderful stuff. How many times have you watched DuckTales Treasure of the Lost Lamp?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but that was definitely watched that many, many times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't hurt when you have Rip Taylor as voicing the genie in that iteration. And also you got the seal of Kolibaba.
Right.
So, with Uncle Scrooge just dunking into his, treasure trove of coins his magic vault. Don't we wish we all had a vault like that? No. I mean, if we dove into those coins, we would have one too many concussions.
Right. No, it's more like at the beach. You have to slowly scoop them on top of you like you do with sand or something and slowly bury yourself in them that way, not just jump head first.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of putting it. Absolutely. What would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
I read a lot when I was a kid and still do. So growing up, definitely all of the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit was something I would read, over and over and over again. I read a lot of the Star Wars books, just kind of going through all of those. And this was, before even the prequels had come out. I was born in the early 80s. So, by the time, I'm in middle school or, high school or something, I'm reading all the Star Wars books and stuff. So all of the Timothy Zahn stuff and, the Jedi Academy and all that kind of fun stuff. That was kind of my go-to. And then I'd basically just read whatever I could get my hands on, honestly. And, I'd read a lot of the books that my mom would be reading. I'd read a lot of stuff that just, I'd find in the library and whatnot and kind of go from there. Yeah.
Man, you took one too many trips into a galaxy far, far away, and all you had to do was take a look. It's in a book. Yeah. So, our friendly neighborhood reading Rainbow once taught us many, many eons ago, and bless that man's heart. Way to go, LeVar Burton.
Yep.
Right. First he encourages people to read, and then all of a sudden he's going up into space with all his friendly neighborhood TNG castmates.
Right.
So
absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I also did, I don't know. Most people don't know or don't remember the show, but I also watched a lot of. I watched Reading Rainbow a lot, but I also watched a lot of Wishbone too.
Oh my gosh!
Would, throw that little Jack Russell Terrier into the, all of the different stories. I always really enjoyed that. It's always a lot of fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of our previous guests, Mary Fan of Crazy 8 Press, mentioned that she was a big Wishbone fan growing up. So
Oh, cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you
absolutely.
go. That kind of helps. When did you first start taking an interest in becoming an artist?
That's an interesting question. I don't really know. I mean, like my grandfather was an artist. He was a painter and a screen printer, and a teacher, and so I mean that was his career. So I've always been surrounded by all of his artwork. It was all just hanging on the walls in our house and everything else. Um, but I never really thought that I could paint or draw or anything like that because I would never be able to draw people to the point that I was, happy with it. So I turned to photography and then, kind of played around with it some in middle school. And then by high school started, did photography for yearbook, minored in photography in college, that kind of thing. So that was kind of always been what I focused on. That was my artistic outlet basically. And then, and I do graphic design and I do stuff on the computer and I do basically things that didn't require me to actually, actually physically draw or anything like that. And then probably about 10 years ago or so, I started needing a hobby that would get me away from sitting in front of a computer basically, because that's what I did at my normal job. And so I started taking up like woodworking. I took up, and then I switched to painting. And as soon as I started painting and especially started doing landscapes, it just all kind of clicked. And I said, hey, this is wonderful. And I'm really enjoying this. And then everything kind of blossomed from there. And so for the past probably 6-7 years now, I've been working mainly with oil paints, and just cranking out landscapes and having a blast.
Man, that is some really good stuff. What would you say are some of the rewards about being an artist?
There's some good rewards that come with it. I mean, first of all, I think everybody has some sort of creativity in them, has some sort of that creative spark. And it just comes out in different ways, whether it's, painting, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's just, maybe not even anything that you're creating necessarily, but just that you're taking part of. So, I mean, like, I think everybody has that. Being an artist on a, professional level, there's it's nice to be able to sit there and, know that your work is something that you really enjoy doing and that you're going to be able to get that creative spark out. And then hopefully you'll make some money at that as well. And so that's always nice. But more importantly, like, I really enjoy going and I travel and I go to different cons all the time. And I go to different cons, I go to different shows. I do plein air painting, which is when you go stand outside next to whatever you're painting and you just paint on the spot basically. And all of those things allow you to actually interact with people. They allow you to talk to people and kind of not only answer people's questions, but also in a sense, encourage people to, to find that creative spark that they have. And I mean, the amount of people that'll sit there and be like, I'd love to be able to paint. I just don't know how. And you just got to, I mean, it's honestly, you just sit there and you go and you practice and you watch some YouTube videos. I mean, go watch Bob Ross. I mean, he's a great teacher that'll get you started and get you some of the basics and stuff. And there's a bunch of others on YouTube that'll do the same thing, but it's just more just enjoying yourself. And as you paint more and more, as you do whatever it is that you're doing in that creative aspect, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And the more you try to learn, the better you're going to get. And so that's, it's fun to encourage people about that. And it's fun to see people's artwork that they've done, and talk about, answer questions. People ask, how'd you get started? Or how do you handle the business side of things? Or how do you, keep your paints from mixing into mud? Or, like all these kind of questions. And it's fun to be able to sit there and actually answer people and say, yeah, this is, and I'm always happy to do that.
Absolutely. Everybody has creativity inside of them. You just got to figure out what that is. And once
Right.
again, we are talking with the incredible Kevin Kurz on this episode of And I Quote. He is part of artofthenerd.com. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for Kevin, by all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be more than happy to hear from you 100%. On the flip side of the fence, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being an artist?
Um, well, if you're trying to make money at it, that's always going to be a huge challenge. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to pull that off. The vast majority of people aren't going to, be able to make a full-time living at it. I mean, you might make a few bucks here and there, and that's great, but it is very hard to get to where that's your sole source of income. And I'm not even there yet. I mean, it's one of my many revenue streams. But there's also the challenge of, sometimes you get a block. I mean, just like writer's block, just like anything else. I mean, sometimes you get a block. Sometimes you get frustrated. Sometimes you have to step away from paintings. Sometimes you have to, start over on paintings. I mean, it's not you're always going to run into those kind of challenges. Sometimes you're going to question yourself. And then like one of the big issues that I think a lot of people have now is because of how the internet's progressed over the past 10 years or so. You can go look online and you will always find people that have more followers than you, more Instagram followers, more TikTok followers, whatever it is. You'll find people that have more followers than you, that have more interactions than you. You'll find people that are better than you. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you are. There are some absolutely amazing artists out there, doing work that's better than you. And the thing is, that can be challenging sometimes, but you have to sit there and realize that that's okay. I mean, it is okay. You don't have to be the absolute best at anything. I worked for a company, and this was probably 15 years ago or something. And we actually developed an iPhone app and got really worried because there were other companies that were going to coming out with the same kind of app that we did. And we sat there and, I was worried about that. And then it was, well, it doesn't have to be the best app, and it doesn't even have to be, it doesn't even have to have a huge amount of market share. But if you have, a set amount of followers or a set amount of people, I mean, that should be plenty. I mean, you don't have to be the best at things. And that kind of always stuck with me. And the idea that, don't let the fact that there's people that are better than you at whatever you're in, distract you from doing what you enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 100%. I'd like to share something with you. And for those of you who are listening, we're going to bring up some images here, and I will describe them as best I can. We got the greatest character on TV today. It's also known as the Mandalorian, and he's sticking his finger out, looking into this carriage. I think he's looking at someone named Grogu, or the child, or Baby Yoda, as some people call him on the interwebs. So how long did it take to put this piece together for Mandalorian and Grogu?
So that is an 11 by 14 oil painting, oil and canvas. Most of my 11 by 14s or 16 by 20s, unless there's an insane amount of detail in there, or it's an incredibly challenging piece, most of those wind up being, a couple, probably about a week or so, to go through the entire thing, from sketching it out to putting the finishing touches on it. A lot of my pieces I wind up keeping fairly loose. So sometimes it's, sometimes they'll go less than that. And then if I want a really detailed piece, it can take quite a bit longer. But usually I can finish a piece within, it takes about a week or so to finish a piece. And that's why a lot of times I have, multiple canvases going, so that I can sit there and as I work on one, I can put a layer down and then work on another one while that one dries, and then come back and kind of circle around. So, I mean, I think right now I've got 5 different pieces in various states at this point in time. So, and I just kind of bounce back and forth between them.
Goodness gracious. The gears just keep turning. You can paint 5 different things at one time. My goodness.
I don't paint them at one time. They're just all in process at the same time. Yes.
Right. But
I'm not over here with 4 brushes in each hand.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not pulling oh gosh, what was the name of that character? I'm trying to. You're not pulling a General Grievous who has
Grievous,
4
yeah.
mechanical arms, where
Yeah.
he pulls them out and he's just using the sabers in his case, but in your case you'd be using like 4 or 5 different paint brushes and going back and forth.
I'm
And
not like
I'm
those
thinking to
chess
myself,
masters who sit there and will play 10 games with 10 different people at the same time. But I bounce back and forth, and oftentimes a lot of my paintings are different, focus on different things or different styles. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to say, okay, well, I can work on, grass or trees over here, and then I can leave and come to mountains over here. And then I'm working on the details of this particular character over here. And so it allows me to kind of sit there, and if I'm not feeling like I'm, in the mood for detail work, I don't have to sit there and say, well, but that's what's left on this painting. I can go to one of the other ones and say, I'm going to start working on this one then.
Goodness gracious, this guy never knows when to quit. But I don't mean that in the bad way. But with that being said, describe for us, if you would, what exactly are we seeing here, and how long did it take you to put this piece together?
Okay. So this is the Hollywood Tower Hotel, the Tower of Terror from Hollywood Studios and Disney. All of the paintings that I do are usually, they have, they're usually landscapes. They usually have a fantasy or a pop culture kind of references and such. And a couple years ago, I started really working on Disney paintings. I love going to Disney. I love the parks. I love the movies, everything like that. So, and this particular piece is a 2 foot by 3 foot. So it's 24 by 36 oil on canvas. And the incredible thing about this one is this is one of a series that I've been doing that's done solely with a palette knife. So that means instead of using brushwork, instead of using brushes and painting it on there, all I use is, hold on, I have one. All I use is a palette knife. So it's literally just a knife that gets, it's got a sharp edge on it, and that's it. And usually use it to mix paint on your palettes, but you can scrape it onto the canvas. And so that's literally all I do is I scrape the paint onto the canvas. And that particular size painting and that style of painting takes probably about 6 weeks or so to finish that particular one. It's a very complex piece because with palette knife paintings, most of the time you're supposed to do them all at once and just slap the paint on the canvas and be very loose with it, and that's it. With the styles I was doing, I was trying to be very as detailed as I could be. So it's still pretty loose because, again, it's just a knife. But it's also at the same time, it's much more detailed than a standard palette knife painting would be. And so you have to know exactly where everything's going to be, and you have to know exactly, and it has to be in a perfect spot, because unlike standard oil paintings, you can't paint over that really, because it adds a huge amount of texture to it. So the paint's sticking off the canvas, and you can't really just paint over that. Usually you have to, so you have to, make sure it's in exactly the right spot. And if then when you come back after it's dry, that's it. And you can paint around it. And occasionally, if you really have to, you can scrape it off, but it's tricky to do that. So, but yeah, that particular one takes about 6 weeks to do.
My goodness gracious. I think you're the first artist who has been on this show anyway. I can't speak for everybody, who has been on the show and say, yeah, when I put something together, I use something known as a palette knife. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you turning into Dundee over here? Like, that's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's a knife.
Yeah, that's not like that palette knife you just pulled out. I'm thinking, is he pulling a Crocodile Dundee on us back here? What's going on?
No, it's a style of painting, and it's actually, it's one I really enjoy doing. Again, partially because it makes me keep things fairly loose. And it keeps me from getting in there and focusing on like the small little detail works, because there's only so much you can do with it. And then also it keeps me from accidentally leaving my brushes out to dry and having to work with cleaning off brushes and stuff.
That is a fair point. That is another fair point. Another thing that's a good point is that you are listening or watching to this incredible episode of And I Quote, featuring Art of the Nerd himself, Kevin Kurz, incredible indie artist on this episode. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for Kevin, by all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Whether you are tuning in live or on the replay, we welcome you and thank you for being with us. Goodness gracious, palette knife. I've never heard those words expressed on this show before. That's not a knife. That's a knife. So way to go, Kevin Kurz. Not so much Crocodile Dundee. You're giving him a run for his money. With that being said, describe to us what we're seeing here and how long did it take you to put this incredible Toy Story-rific piece together?
So this is Buzz Lightyear from again. This is also from Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. They have giant statues of all of the Toy Story characters in Toy Story Land, and so this is one of them. And I was actually down there with my kids a couple, like 2 years ago, I guess, and it started getting into what we call blue hour in the as photographers, where it's right before it starts getting really dark and the sun's setting, and so it started getting to, like, you had a really good sunset that was going to transition into a really nice blue hour, and so I basically spent about 15 minutes, I mean, literally sprinting through the park trying to take pictures of all of the different parts of the park that I wanted to paint later on, because that's usually what I wind up doing with the parks, is I will take reference photos, anytime I'm down there, and then use those to paint from. And so this is the Buzz Lightyear statue. I also actually have one that's also the counterpart is the Woody statue as well at Toy Story, at the entrance to Toy Story Land. And so I painted both of those. Those are they're 18 by 24, so they're a little bit bigger than my usual ones. And I wound up putting a lot more detail into them than I usually do, to make them a bit more lifelike and to make them a bit more realistic, even though they're still, plastic. So, it was a kind of a fun experiment with that. But yeah, so I mean, that one probably took about 3 or 4 weeks to do that particular one. And then I had to do the Woody one after that. And then I haven't done any more because it took a while for those originals to sell. It's always an interesting thing. I paint what I enjoy painting, but at the same time, I also like to paint something that I think will, other people will enjoy and that will hopefully, sell, so that I can not have stacks and stacks of paintings, piling up in the, in the corner of my studio. And so, if something doesn't seem to really be working with people, then, it's a little bit trickier. It's I might not continue that series, for example, until I have time or, something like that. So.
Well, that is just terrific stuff. Very good detail, by the way.
Thank you.
I will say, just out of curiosity, though, favorite Toy Story film and favorite Toy Story character?
I don't know if I actually have a favorite character. They're, I mean, it's kind of all fun.
There's too many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and they all work really well. And so, I don't really have a favorite there. I think as far as the films go, I mean, I think 2 is like, honestly, 2 is probably my favorite one. I think I just seem to enjoy that one more. But I have 2 little girls, and we've watched the Toy Story movies with them, but for whatever reason, they haven't gotten to the point where they're watching them over and over and over again yet. So, I've watched it with them recently, but I haven't watched them as much as, some of the other movies that they just kind of latch onto.
That's fair. That's fair. Good movies, though, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. All of them.
Just had a follow up to that, Toy Story 2, I'm trying to think, the Jessie scene always get you with what happened to her?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Does that always get you?
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a sad song too.
It is.
Gosh.
I always, actually, that song kind of, it got to the point where the song kind of annoyed me because it wound up on one of my kids' playlists, and like it's full of bouncy, happy Disney songs, and all of a sudden that one shows up, and you're like, okay, let's just skip this.
Yeah, put on something. Put on Under the Sea again or something like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or
we're
you know,
gonna skip through this one because it's just it doesn't fit the moods of all of the other songs basically. So.
Mm-hmm. That's I can, I can certainly understand that. What pieces, I should say, of advice would you give to aspiring artists out there?
So the two main pieces I would give are practice and work on your art all the time. Even if you think you're not very good at it, even if you're, not happy with what you're putting together, keep working on it. When I first started, I actually wound up, I think it was my second year that I'd been painting oil paintings, and I knew that I needed to get better at things and take and go to another level basically. And I decided I was going to paint at least one finished painting every week. And that was my goal, is to turn out at least, 52 paintings over the course of a year. And I actually surpassed that, by the time the year was all said and done. And so it's, and I could see a huge difference by the end of it too. I mean, like I could easily look and say, yeah, I'm, I've gotten to a different level basically than where I was. And a lot of it was because of practice. I'd also say learn a lot. I mean, there's a lot of, there's classes you can take. I mean, if you have if they're in your area or you have the money for it, I mean, sometimes they can get expensive, but they're going to be very helpful. But more than that, it's going to be that there's so much stuff on like YouTube, on, all of the other programs that are like, websites that are out there that offer classes and courses and that kind of stuff. And so you should always try to be learning kind of what you're interested in. And I mean, I sit there and probably every day I'll watch at least, I'll have at least a YouTube video going, at least one. And I mean, they're not long. They're, 10 minutes or something. And it's not like it's a class. It's not like here's how you do this, but it's basically watching other artists as they paint the way they paint. And that's a fun, just kind of a way to see how they do things or how they might handle issues, that kind of stuff. And so that's, learning's always a good one. And then the third thing I would say is for aspiring artists is basically, at some point, especially if you're aspiring just to be an artist just for you, then that's what you need, those 2 points. If you're aspiring to be an artist who's actually going to be able to, turn it into a hobby or maybe eventually even a full-time profession, you need to just kind of throw yourself out there basically. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can do it on social media. You can do it in person. Do little, there's a lot of, I'm based in Atlanta. There's a lot of pop-up markets that, show up every weekend, and it's like $25 for a booth or something. I mean, it's not a lot, and you just go set up and talk to people and get used to, promoting yourself and promoting your artwork and, figuring out where your price points are and figuring out, what people want and what they don't want, what they like, what they don't like, that kind of thing. And you just kind of have to get out there and try, because if you don't do that, if you try to wait, and you might not think you're good enough to do that yet. And you might not be good enough to do that yet, but you should still get out there and do it, because that's how you get better at that side of the profession basically. The very first con I went to, I think I had 4 paintings and a couple prints. Like I had prints of 4 paintings. Like I'd only done, that's how many I had done. like that's how many oil paintings I had painted, was 4. And so I had prints of them, and I might've made $150 or something, over 3 days of a convention. So, I mean, it definitely wasn't enough to, cover anything really, but at the same time, it was enough to figure out what people liked. It was enough to say, hey, there's, something here. It was enough to figure out that, it was something that you could move into and go forward with. So.
Rock on, man. Great pieces of advice. Mic drop. And once again, we are talking with the terrific Kevin Kurz of Art of the Nerd here on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for Kevin, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We're more than happy to hear from you. What would you say, and you mentioned being in the state of Georgia, which is the home of Dragon Con, one of the biggest conventions in the entire world. And that kind of brings us to this question. What would you say are there any special memories for you that stand out as being at conventions or shows, whether you're there as a vendor or there as an attendee? Any special memories for you?
There's a lot of them. One of mine, like I go to Dragon Con pretty much every year. And one of the things I've been doing for the past couple of years is I actually will cosplay as Bob Ross and set up an actual easel in one of the hotels, like in the courtyard or the atrium or whatever, and I will live paint a painting, and it'll take an afternoon. People will stop every 30 seconds and want to take a picture or want to talk or something like that. So it'll take a couple hours to put together a Bob Ross style painting, and then I donate it to the Dragon Con charity, and they usually raise a couple $100 for whatever their charity is each year. And so that's always one of the things I really enjoy doing, because I don't have to be dealing with money. I don't have to be selling things. I don't have to be watching a booth or anything. I can just be talking with people and painting. And it's a lot of fun to do that. So that's one of them. I mean, that's something every year is I really look forward to. Other times at cons, I mean, like it's not specific memories so much as it's just kind of like I was at MegaCon a couple months ago, and which is also a huge convention, and I usually have my really big paintings, lifted way up so that people can see them over the other booths and that kind of stuff. And it's always fun to sit there and have people like kind of walk by and stop, and you just hear the, oh, wow, or you'll, something like that, or you'll even just see them across the aisle, just, looking and talking, and they may not even come over and they may not buy anything, and that's okay. But it's still fun to kind of just, kind of see how people are affected by, by the different paintings and stuff.
Jeez, going as Bob Ross, man, pulling a throwback right there. Doing your whole painting thing, dude, that's wild, and that's cool that you're able to
put the wig on and everything. Yeah.
Oh, you have the whole wig and the whole setup and everything. Goodness
Absolutely.
gracious, man! In the words of another indie film from the '90s, we spared no expense.
Yeah.
So way to go, man! Way to go! That is awesome sauce. Are there any celebrities or other artists you hope to meet at some point in the future?
I mean, honestly, not really. I always enjoy meeting different celebrities, different artists as as it happens, but I've never really been one to really be, focused on that, I guess. Although I will say at Shore Leave last year, Summer Glau was there, and I had just done a painting of Serenity from Firefly, and I actually got her to sign one of the prints. And then I had to immediately like tuck that away to make sure I didn't actually accidentally sell it to somebody. But I was going to do that this year as well. I did a Lord of the Rings painting and was at a con where all 4 of the hobbits were there. And which I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to go get them to sign my thing. And then it turned out that it was a bit of a slower con, so I didn't quite have the couple $100 to get all 4 of them to sign a piece, and I couldn't quite justify it, basically. So, but maybe next time.
My goodness gracious, that's crazy. Yeah, Summer Glau is one of the nicest people I've come across in my con career. I've been going to cons for over 10 years, and first time I met her was a couple years back at Awesome Con, which is located in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. Fantastic. And then I saw her again at, what was it? It was Shore Leave, and I actually had her sign my Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
DVD set, because she was the Terminator.
Yeah.
Cameron was the character in that series, and I thought, I might as well bring this. She's going to be there, so what the hey? And she ended up signing it, and she appreciated that. But did she lose her mind when she saw the piece that you did? Did she say, "Oh my gosh, this is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life"? When she saw your artwork?
So actually, I wasn't. It's always hard when I'm running a booth to actually get to go meet the people. So I actually had to send a friend over and be like, "Can you get her to sign this real fast?" Because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. And unfortunately, when a lot of cons, when you're running a booth, and you're there from the start of the con until basically the end of the day. A lot of times, unfortunately, it's hard to go out and get a feel for the rest of the con or interact with the guests or the celebrities or anything like that. So, I mean, usually I'm sitting there at behind my table and talking to people for the entire day, and then once that's done, I'm just wiped and it's off to the grab some food and hit the hotel bar and then call it a night kind of deal.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Just thought I'd ask, but yeah, it's tough. So you have to send one of your friends or family members to do you a solid. Which
right, exactly.
Yeah, which I understand. With the Hobbit situation, which Hobbits do you have yet to sign it? Who needs to sign this thing?
Oh, they all. No, I never actually got any of them to sign it.
Oh, you never got. Okay, because I was going to say in our nation's capital,
they were doing a group thing,
Okay. Gotcha.
It was at Atlanta Comic Convention in February, and they had all four of the
Wow.
all four of the Hobbits there.
Man,
it was. I mean, it was basically. I think it was $300 to get all four of them, and I was just. I just like I can't justify.
It's okay.
Yeah. So.
Too rich for one's own blood.
Right.
Fun fact though. What was it? It was Frodo and Samwise are going to be at AwesomeCon in Washington D.C. this summer.
Cool.
So, and also Andy Serkis is going to be in the building.
Okay. Very cool.
So if you want to lose your mind and go nuts and get your Lord of the Rings freak flag on, there is going to be a good portion of the Middle Earth cast at AwesomeCon, our nation's capital of D.C. this summer.
Awesome. I have to. I'll have to remember that. I'm trying to get better at actually looking at who the guests are that go to different cons before I go there, because usually, in preparation for upcoming cons, I try to paint at least one piece that's going to appeal to the people that are there, various fans or whatnot. So if I go to a Harry Potter convention, I'll usually paint a Harry Potter piece. If I go to a Star Trek convention like Shore Leave, I'll usually try to paint the Enterprise or something along those lines. But then there's been other conventions where I just completely forgot to check and see who the main people are that were going to be there, and I was just sitting there and I'm kicking myself in my booth going, oh, I could have brought that painting and it would have been up there, and I probably and that kind of thing. So it's good to know about AwesomeCon, because I'm gonna have a booth there as well, and so I'll probably wind up working that in some.
Well, that's fair. And just in case you're wondering, and not to get on a bit of a tangent about AwesomeCon, but the cast of Star Wars: The Clone Wars,
okay,
the animated series is going to be this. You got Ashley Eckstein, you got James Arnold Taylor, you got Matt Lanter, you also got the writer of the Ahsoka book, E.K. Johnston. So if you're looking to do something special for AwesomeCon, Star Wars maybe something to look into. Especially the Clone Wars cast is going to be there. Triple threat, all the three.
Right.
So if you want to get your Star Wars freak flag on, please do for AwesomeCon, our nation's capital of DC, which takes place between June 16th through the 18th of 2023 this year.
Yes.
So there you go. Fun facts for those of you who may be watching or listening to this in the comfort of your own home. AwesomeCon happens to be one of the biggest shows in the Northeast Coast. Absolutely. One of the biggest ever. So if you want to meet some of your favorite peeps, maybe meet some independent artists such as Kevin and Company, you might want to buy your tickets.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a, soft spot. Shameless self promotion for other people out there, because hey, indie supports indie. That's what we got to do around here. With that,
absolutely.
Gee willikers. I could talk about Star Wars all day. But what I do want to let you know is that this episode of And I Quote, and every episode of And I Quote, is indeed powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now, Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. You simply shuffle up the cards, you ask a question, you let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com. Make sure you use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10. Ryan10 for 10% off your order. You're going to like the way you look after picking up a set of these cards. We guarantee it. So, Kevin Poddex wants to know, what makes you feel old?
Makes me feel old?
Yeah, it could be anything. Anything.
Well, that's an interesting question.
It is, isn't it?
Probably probably trying to explain a lot of things to my kids about, kind of when I was growing up before, like trying to explain what a corded telephone was, for example. Or trying to explain what even a DVD or a CD at this point, because everything's streaming. So like there's always, especially if we're watching something that takes, that's an older movie or something, trying to explain, oh yeah, that's how things used to be. Like I think we were watching Turning Red, the Disney movie, and wound up trying to explain what a Tamagotchi was, little digital keychain animal things and
That's
that
right.
kind of stuff. So yeah. So I mean,
I remember those.
Yeah, and it just always, will pop up every so often. It's like, well, what's that? And it's just like, oh, okay, well,
Little digital
that's
device.
before you're, yeah, exactly. It's kind of before you're, before we had the internet. It was, we did things this
Tamagotchis.
way.
It was Tamagotchis. It was LA lights, LA sneakers. Remember those
Yep.
sneakers that lit up red whenever you walked by?
Yeah.
And it was also the game of Pogs.
Oh, I remember Pogs. Yeah. I
Mhm.
absolutely remember Pogs.
I had a container full of those things. Did you have one as well?
I did. Yes, I did. I don't think we played the game properly. I think we just,
No.
but
We just collected them just to collect them. And also, you
Right.
remember those little things called tech decks, those little skateboard things?
Yep. Yeah, like all that. I mean, it'll just pop up every so often. It's just kind of like having to explain. Yeah, that's how things used to be.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Times were simpler back then. But I'll tell you what, Poddex wants to know, what's the funniest or most disappointing or weirdest text you've ever received?
I don't know if I have an answer to that. I will say I send and receive a lot of weird and funny texts, and so that's usually kind of I mean, that's usually how it goes. Yeah.
Do you find yourself using words or more so emojis when communicating?
I'm not a big emoji person.
There you go.
Like I have a handful that I'll use, the smiley face or the winky face or, stuff like that. But as far as like, I mean, the people who are, putting the emoji in place of words. And so you basically just have a bunch of hieroglyphs. I'm a little too old, I think, to actually have been, make that. I mean, I still know how to use the number keypads to text and that kind of thing. So
wow, that's going back a little bit, but what is something that you've never been able to do well? And this could be anything.
There's a lot of things I can't do well.
You can name one of them if you wish.
I am fairly bad at dancing. I'm fairly. I used to say I was fairly bad at music. I think now it's just, I realize I just don't practice enough to make it worthwhile, because I can now play 2 songs on a piano. And so that's, that's enough that I don't consider myself bad. I just consider myself, not good. So yeah.
That's fair. That's completely fair. Would you rather be the most popular kid in school or the smartest kid in school?
Probably the smartest. I was definitely not the most popular kid in school, and that was okay. And so yeah, I would probably go smartest.
There you go. Pull Screech powers, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a Penny from Inspector Gadget. Come in, Chi Quimby. Or maybe be the Kit. Even though you're not a car that talks, but the Night Industries 2000. You remember that car?
Yeah.
I'd rather be the smartest one with all the intelligence. Hello, Michael.
Right.
I just got done watching some episodes of Knight Rider. Gosh, that
Oh,
car is
fun.
so freaking
Yeah.
cool. I want that car, honestly.
I've seen people mod their cars to look like the Knight
The
Rider.
Pontiac Trans Am.
Yeah, take the Trans Ams and put the little Knight Rider kits in there and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, they look good.
It's a slick looking car, man. But but aside from pop culture references that we are making abound here, what is something that you hate but you wish you loved?
Something that I hate but I wish I loved.
Could be anything.
I don't. I'm not sure. I kind of. It's not that I'd hate it necessarily, but I wish I loved. Probably watching. Maybe watching TV a little bit. I guess I'm not a huge TV person. I'm bad at doing the week to week shows, so all the new stuff, like I can never get into it. So there's always people are like, hey, this is a great episode, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I usually wait and will try to binge it when I have time or something like that. But I'm also very bad at just not following through with them. So I mean, like, I know one of the shows that everybody talks about is always for years has been The Expanse. And I swear I've tried to watch that show 5 times and I'll get through the first couple of episodes and just never be able to follow through with it. So I wish I could be a little bit better at, but at the same time, I also make it a point to try not to watch too much TV, because the times when I'm watching TV are the times where I'm not painting or the times where I'm not, learning or, something like that. So
I can certainly understand that. Well, you don't have to worry about this being new, but they just revealed the news for this particular portion of this show that all 4 original Indiana Jones movies are going to land on Disney Plus on May 31st.
I saw that.
So
and,
there you go.
And Young Indiana Jones.
Oh, Young Indiana Jones is going to be on there too?
Jones will be on there too. Yeah.
Oh, because I never watched it. I never saw it.
Oh, is
I hear it's great though. People rave about it.
I would tell you it's great, except I think I tried to rewatch it a couple years ago, and it was definitely a bit cheesy.
Doesn't hold up, does it?
I don't know. It doesn't hold up to what I remember, but I don't know if that means it's it's like I said, it's been a while since I tried to rewatch it, but I do remember watching that when I was a kid, and it was great. So I'm excited that it's finally getting put back up and so where people can see it and stuff.
Yeah, I always wondered, when they bought the rights, I'm thinking, okay, you have the rights to Lucasfilm. Why don't you just post everything Star Wars and everything Indiana Jones? Because that's part of Lucasfilm. Why the heck didn't you do that in the first place? You have the rights.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a streaming rights.
Well, true, because originally Indiana Jones was on the Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it gets tied up in everything, and I never understand how it works.
Yeah, that's the business side of things, but
right.
Hey, we digress. But on a positive note, I do want to say that this has been a wonderful episode of And I Quote. I want to take this opportunity to thank Kevin Kurz of Art of the Nerd for being with us. Kevin, thank you so much for being here, my man. It is always a pleasure sitting down with you and talking with you and learning from you all these wonderful, incredible things, whether it's about art or pop culture, what you have planned next. And speaking of next, where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media and everything that you do have coming up?
So the best option is going to wind up being go to my website, which is artofthenerd.com. And all of the social media links are there. So I have Instagram and Facebook, which is what I use mostly. I'm on TikTok, and I do weekly streams on Twitch as well. And so you can actually join in Wednesday nights. Usually on Twitch, I will be. I usually stream around 9 o'clock after the kids go to bed, and we'll just be working on whatever painting I'm working on, and you can kind of follow along and ask questions, or kind of just see how the process goes. And then everything's on the website. You can go through and kind of look at all the different paintings. It's broken up into different categories. So there's definitely, if you're a Doctor Who fan, or if you're a Star Wars, a Disney fan, or if you're Harry Potter or something, I have specific pages, just nothing but those paintings. And then I have kind of the catch-all various all the others as well. If you want to come by and see me in person, if you're in the Atlanta area, Memorial Day weekend, so I don't think it's this weekend, it's the next weekend, MomoCon is happening. It It is going to be at the Georgia World Congress Center. It is a huge con. It is actually an anime oriented con. So I'm kind of excited about that because I'm not a huge anime person, and so I'm gonna see how that goes. But I'm gonna be there, and it'll be fun, and I'll get to talk to everybody and have a bunch of my paintings. And then after that, like we talked about, Awesome Con in Washington D.C., and I'll be there. And then I think Shore Leave follows that, and then later this summer I'm going to be at Tampa Bay Comic Con at the end of July. So if you want to come by and see me in person, if you're in any of those places, I always love to see people and say hi and chat and that kind of thing.
Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Thank you for being here with us, Kevin. Do greatly appreciate it. All the links to where you can follow Kevin as well as myself are located within the description of this episode. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. My name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. This has been a great episode. We've also, we are getting this close, I should say, this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream with returning guests, some very special guests, as well as special giveaways for you, our incredible subscribers. We are up to 810 subscribers, so thank you to each and every single one of you who have been with us, whether you've been with us from the beginning or you're just joining us now. Thank you so much. We cannot do this without you. We put this content together. We put these shows together for you and to share our passion and love for all things nerd culture, pop culture, all that great stuff. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, smash that notification bell so you get notified of when our new videos go up. Indie supports indie, so let's support each other. Why don't ya? In the meantime, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, and remember, life is better when reading or hanging up great-looking paintings or prints on your wall. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Sweet dreams they placed on me inside my mind. Chance my truth, twist the past, my memories are fading fast. Am I still missed? Who do you want me to be? Am I still missed?
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.